Let's go.
3, 2, 1.
What's up everyone, Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture. Thank you for coming by the channel. Going to do a quick technical analysis kind of based off and piggybacking off of the one I did yesterday, talking about the long-term outlook of Bitcoin, of Litecoin, talking about the long-term trend. I wanted to add a little bit more value to the video I did yesterday, more underlying context to what I was even talking about, because I know it was kind of vague. I had some lines on the chart. I showed the general pattern. I showed the general uptrend, but I wanted to just dig into it a little bit more so we can really look at what's actually going on. This will help tell the story a lot better, and it'll help you probably prepare and get ready in terms of, you know, what to do next if certain moves happen, if that makes sense. And let's just jump in and let me show you what I'm talking about. It's one of my favorite things to look at, especially as more of a long-term type of investor, trader. I'm not so much of a, you know, daily trader, and it's not something I really like to do. It's not something I would say I'm great at. So with that being said, since I am more of a long-term trader, since I am somebody that does like to buy dips and even take profit occasionally, which is never a bad thing, I love to look at the 50 and 200 EMA. Very popular when compared to the SMA, which is a simple moving average. The exponential moving average, it's a little bit more aggressive. It takes more recent price action and data, and it applies the moves quicker. So it's a little bit more aggressive than the simple moving average, and it provides, you know, quicker feedback in terms of the trend and the average. So with that being said, I'm on Bitcoin chart looking at the 200 EMA, which is orange, and the 50 EMA, which is pink. Now, what we really just want to look at is, I like to always start with the 50. Let's let the 50 tell the story of what is happening, what's taking place in the market, because history repeats itself and you see it happen time and time again. And it really gives good indicators of what to look for when it's happening. So what I mean by that is, if you look back at these uptrends in this long-term trend up with Bitcoin, if you look at these quick moves up and these pullbacks, you see we test the 50 EMA almost every time on these pullbacks. So the EMA, this 50 acts as a support. And I want you to really think about the 50 and the 200 as support and resistance lines. They're not just moving average, but they really act in the market as support and resistance. So as you see, we bounce off of the 50, we come back, we go below the 50, but we break back through, and we don't spend a lot of time below the 50. It's one of the first things you want to look for in a sign of a big reversal is not only breaking the 50 EMA, but trading below it for, you know, a while. So you see we broke back through, we stayed above it, kind of go up, using 50 EMA as support, break through, go back above it. Same thing over and over again. Now, that leaves us with where we are now in this most recent uptrend, which is we broke the 50 EMA. And that's when you kind of need to open your eyes and be like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen next? Are we going to stay above here? Can we get back above the 50 EMA and can it act as support? If it turns into resistance, then we really need to look at what's going on and, you know, prepare for the worst. And I'm going to go back to the chart for Bitcoin in, you know, November, December timeframe, in 2013, when we took this massive increase up above 1,000. And you remember, we took a massive correction pretty quickly, 50% correction, if not more than 50%. Now you see, when this happened, we tested that 50 EMA, we broke through, but we broke back above it for support. And then we broke it again, and we stayed under the 50 EMA. And this is what I mean when I say staying under. And if you compare this time frame with now, you can see that we took the correction, bounced off of it, but now we broke through it again, and we're kind of hovering under this 50 EMA, and I've been waiting for it to bounce back above it, but it hasn't. And this is when we need to keep an eye on it, because what happens next usually, if there is going to be a major reversal in the market, and this reversal was, almost 2 year, bearish downtrend, you'll see what it does is it's going to get closer and closer to testing the 200 EMA. And oftentimes what happens is you'll have the price kind of bounce off the 200 as support and then bounce back off the 50 as resistance. And it kind of plays ping pong between those two levels. And when it's doing that, not only should that raise caution, but what you want to look out for next is what they call the death cross, which is a real true sign of a reversal, which simply means the 50 EMA crosses over the 200 EMA, and it's a very good sign of a reversal. And it looks like it did it, and then it kind of tried to cross back up over, and then it crossed. We had another death cross, and we had this pretty long bearish trend until we turned it around. So am I saying that's going to happen now? No. However, right now, in this time that we're in, we have to look at this as kind of a critical point for Bitcoin, because we're going to do one of two things. We're going to do something like this, where we kind of trade under the 50 moving average for a time and finally break back through quickly, but it needs to happen quick. Or we are going to do this, which is essentially kind of reverse into more of a downtrend. And nobody wants that to happen, but we're at a critical point where you have to keep an eye on it and see what is going to happen. So if that did happen, let's just talk about if that did happen. What would we be really looking at? Well, we're looking at a couple of things. We see, obviously, we have this support at 10,000 right now, which is, I think, very critical in terms of, are we going to bounce off the support if we test it again? And are we going to break back above the 50 EMA? Or are we going to break through that support at 10,000 and really start to test the 200 EMA down in the 8,500 support area, which, there is support at the 8,500. And if you look at the 200 EMA, that's right around where it is right now. So are we going to start playing that game of ping pong between the 200 and 50? Or are we going to get back above the 50 EMA and start using it again as support? The question is up in the air. Nobody knows. And, in terms of Litecoin, we're kind of in that same realm of possibilities. So it's something that we have to keep an eye on. And if we do stay under this 50 and start testing this 200, I really do see the 200. And this is what I talked about yesterday, being conservative and, looking at the worst case scenario. I see, if you look at this 200 EMA on Litecoin, right around down here, it's right around in the 120 area, which I think there's a nice amount of support for Litecoin in the 120. So if we do start playing some ping pong here between the 50 and 200, we might start consolidating in the 120, 150 area. So, that's kind of, obviously, worst case scenario can always be, we go back down to like $20. I don't think that's going to happen. So my worst case scenario is we kind of really consolidate. Worst case scenario, we don't break back above the 50 EMA. We don't find support at the 50 EMA, which right now is above 200. And we really see a lot of resistance there, pushes us down into kind of a new channel of consolidation between the 250. That's kind of where my head's at right now. It's so volatile right now. There's so much going on. It's impossible to even guess what's going to happen. However, what I do is I anticipate, okay, what am I going to do if that happens? So my strategy is I have fiat ready to go, ready to buy more. That's me. So the question for you is, what is your strategy? You know, do you want to buy more? Do you just want to hold? And then what's your strategy on the flip side? If we break back above the 50 EMA, we break back through 200, and we start, you know, kind of doing what we've been doing, which is a nice trend up. Always be prepared. But I wanted to do this video to add more context to the one I did yesterday and really look at what is moving these trend lines. And, you know, what are some nice indicators that we can look at. And the 200 EMA, the 50 EMA, they're solid indicators across all markets. A lot of traders use them. You can use them in the smaller time frames. I just don't typically like to do that. So with that being said, these are my thoughts for the day. I really appreciate you watching. I appreciate you coming by, and I will see you on the next video. God bless.